Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, our fourth pod of the week. It is Friday morning as we come to you. Montreal and Toronto have just about got off the starting blocks. David, a four-pod week. It's basically a grand slam.
I know, it's good, isn't it? Yeah, we should do this more often. Oh, we are doing it all the time, so it's fine.
Matt is here. How's it going, Matt? Didn't stay up to watch Amanda Anisimova. Turned out to be a good decision because that was mostly rain, let me tell you.
Yes, well, with an early recording like this, I had a decision to make, and I opted for early night, early wake up, whiz through the condensed 15-minute matches on Tennis Channel. So I've watched a load of those this morning. And look, she got the win, so it worked.
Yeah, I take it they cut out the sad static shots of an empty court with rain falling down in the 15-minute highlights, which is what I found myself staring at it at midnight last night. We will get on to all of that. We are going to start, though, with the hospital ward that is men's tennis at the moment, and we're actually going to start outside of Canada. The hospital ward does extend to Canada as well, but we're starting in Europe with the Carlos Alcaraz news that broke a couple of days ago. We knew he was targeting Cincinnati for his comeback. He had never confirmed Cincinnati for his comeback, but we obviously started seeing very encouraging training footage of Carlos Alcaraz, first with braids, then without braids. The braid era seems to have gone very quickly. Maybe he's a tennis podcast listener, who knows? But so have hopes of him playing in Cincinnati, because we had the confirmation a couple of evenings ago that he has withdrawn from Cincinnati. We're hearing sort of through the grapevine reassurances that this isn't due to any kind of setback. It was just always going to be an ambitious timeline for him to be ready in time for Cincinnati. So it's obviously a blow, David. I was looking forward to maybe seeing Carlos Alcaraz in Cincinnati, and it is. But apart from that, I sort of believe the reassurances that this isn't any kind of disaster with the injury, but it now does leave him the pickle of, well, can he make a comeback from a 4-month injury? And this is different to an off season. You know, he had a lot of time not being able to hit tennis balls at all. That is very unusual for tennis players. Can he come back from that period on the sidelines cold into a best of 5 set Grand Slam tournament, or would that be madness?
It doesn't sound ideal, does it? I mean, I think it is a pretty big setback, personally. The idea was, if you're going to play the US Open, the idea is to play Cincinnati, really, isn't it? And to get yourself properly into a big tournament with best of 3 set matches, and he's not able to do that at the moment.
It's a setback in terms of potentially being competitive at the US Open, maybe. But I mean, it's not a setback in terms of nothing's happened. Nothing's happened to his wrist, is what we're hearing. It was just always an ambitious timeline.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit of a reality check, because I think when we were all seeing those video pictures of him swiping forehands and looking like a tennis player on the practice court, I think we were running away and probably thinking, "Oh, he's back."
Well, you weren't, David. You were an absolute bummer about it. So
I know.
You've been proven right.
I do, really, don't I? I mean, and I think that's probably a little bit of life experience of having been the excitable one every time anybody looks half decent on a practice court. I've spent a lifetime doing this, getting over enthusiastic about somebody's comeback based on a few bits of footage. And the truth is, it's so different being in a match situation. I mean, we could well be in a situation where by the end of this year, and imagine if somebody had put this to you in Australia, that Serena Williams plays more Grand Slam tournaments in 2026 than Carlos Alcaraz does. You know, that is an absolute possibility.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reality check, isn't it? And look, Serena came and played Wimbledon without playing anything before, other than a bit of doubles. And
David,
I mean, she looked okay
this
in that
surely
one
this isn't the
match.
comp.
No, but this is kind
She'd
of my
had
point,
4
really.
years
I mean,
on the sideline and is in her mid-40s.
I know, but I mean, I do think that I'm still pretty apprehensive about Alcaraz generally. It's not just about the US Open because he's taken such a long time off.
Can I interest you in Winston-Salem, David?
Yeah, there are rumours, David.
Sure.
And these are spurious at this stage, but I'm willing
I'll
to get
take anything I
excited
can
about
get.
them. There are spurious rumours that he's investigating the wildcard situation in Winston-Salem.
That's
I'll
fine.
tell you now, Carlos, I think they'll be up for it.
Imagine if they'd given them all out.
Yeah, we've given one to Zachary Schreider. I'm sorry,
So,
that was the last one. They
imagine,
will change. They will change the rules if need be.
Zachary, is there any chance we could have that wild card back? We'll make it worth your while. But it's
with David. If we got the news later today, he's taken a Winston-Salem wild card, and a positive quote about how he just needed that extra week or 2 weeks, I suppose, isn't it? Would that change how you feel?
Not really. I want to see him play. I'd be looking forward to seeing him, and then upon seeing him in match situations, time after time, I would be certainly more relieved by that. I mean, I think there's still a big difference between that and going to the US Open and being. I'm not saying necessarily being competitive for the title, but you want to see him able to physically do it again. That's the bottom line: is can this guy play tennis over best of 5 sets? I'm not saying again, but like, if he doesn't play now, then he's got several months until the Australian Open. And I just sort of wonder, well, what's the point at which you can build it up and start playing? Because so far, you've had 4 months out of the sport. So it must be pretty bad to miss that much time.
Well, that was pretty depressing, Matt.
Look, I mean, I totally understand what David's saying, and I guess I agree with it. Really, I think the Cincinnati news and the fact that he's withdrawn from that has just made me reevaluate the timeline. There was something in my head that was going, okay, he's already hitting again. If he could get 1 or 2 matches in Cincinnati and come through that pain-free, okay, he can then go into the US Open, and I don't think he's likely to win it just with the sheer lack of tennis that he's had. But maybe we get a Grand Slam experience again where Carlos Alcaraz is a factor and is winning a few rounds and looking better and building. And I was that level of excited about Alcaraz going into the US Open. Now I'm, well, does it even make sense to play the US Open? Because if you can't play Cincinnati, how ready are you, even with potentially a Winston-Salem wildcard, how ready are you for a Grand Slam? And I think the answer to that at this stage is probably not ready. And if he is going to come back for the US Open, I get the sense that it would be pushing it, which has been totally against his approach this entire time. So in that respect, I'd also now be nervous, I think, if he played the US Open, because I think it would feel like he's trying desperately to get back for it and not miss 3 Grand Slams this year. So that's what's changed for me, rather than any concern about the injury generally. I have to believe everything we're reading, which is that the recovery is on the right track and he will get back. It's just a matter of when, and that when, in my mind, has just shifted back a little bit.
Yeah, he's hitting. The timing's pretty unfortunate, isn't it? Because he's hitting if he doesn't make it for the US Open, he's hitting a rare point in the calendar where there aren't any Grand Slams to build up.
The big Laver Cup comeback.
Yeah, Laver Cup are absolutely rubbing their hands together at this, aren't they? Do you know what they don't want?
Honest,
a Winston-Salem wildcard.
To be honest, not the worst event to come back.
No, absolutely. It's down the road from us, Matt. We've got accreditation.
I was
See you
thinking
there,
for him,
Carlos.
actually, but yeah, it's good for
No,
us
no,
as well.
I agree. Staying with devastating men's tennis injury news for honestly quite some time, actually, folks. Strap in. Jannik Sinner. Some slightly worrying murmurings coming from the Sinner camp this week. Well, originally worrying, and latterly less worrying. Corriere della Sera reported yesterday that he was having medical checks in Milan, I think, that weren't routine. They were related to some discomfort he was feeling in his knee. And at that point, participation in Cincinnati sounded like it was in doubt. Now, Gazzetta were reporting last night that he had had a positive training session and that the verdict was that the knee issue, whatever it is treatable with physiotherapy, and that the plan very much is to fly to Cincinnati. So look, this is a completely different situation to Carlos Alcaraz, but it's still not great, is it, David?
Not really. It is difficult because we've not seen him. I've not seen him noticeably struggle, certainly in tennis matches with that, and we haven't seen him pull out of anything yet. I suppose you could say he's pulled out of Canada, but then I fully expected him to pull out of Canada. Certainly, that makes total sense given what he's done the last couple of years. This is a bit of a concern because it is proper publication with proper reporting there. Time will tell, but it wouldn't be a massive surprise in terms of just the number of players who are struggling physically right now with the grind of the circuit.
Yeah, it is. Look, it is a pretty desperate situation, quite frankly. That doesn't sound too alarming for Jannik Sinner, but it's definitely we'll be watching out for that. It's it's a brutal surface, hard courts, isn't it? It's unforgiving on the joints if you are going into a Grand Slam swing with a joint issue. It's far from ideal. Okay, let's head to Canada and start ticking off the devastating injury news from Montreal. At the time of recording, by the way, which is Friday morning, both the men's and the women's events are at the same stage. They're halfway through the third round. On the men's side, only 3 of the top 11 men's seeds remain. And by contrast, on the women's side, only 1 of the top 13 seeds has lost. I mean, due to injury and shock defeat and withdrawal, the Montreal draw is just absolutely decimated right now. And we'll come on to who that might end up being an opportunity for. I think the answer to that might be, frankly, anybody at this point. But let's start by ticking off all the injuries that we've experienced so far in Montreal. And I'm afraid we have to start with, honestly, what was some of the most harrowing scenes I've seen on a tennis court this year during Jack Draper's comeback match against Terence Atman on Tuesday night in Montreal. 1-4 down in the final set was Jack Draper. He'd won the second set, but then at the start of the third, it became very clear very quickly that something was wrong. It was basically like he powered down. Serve speeds dropped way off. He was bailing out of baseline rallies, playing a lot of drop shots, really good drop shots, by the way. That's a real weapon he's developed in his arsenal. But you don't want to be playing them for that reason, that you don't want to hang in longer rallies. He ended up losing the match, but it was at the 1-4 sit down in the deciding set when Jack Draper crumples, quite frankly, in a sort of, the devastating depiction of a man that has had a soul-destroying year on tour and off tour, trying desperately to get his body into a position where it can just compete and do the thing that he has spent his whole life training it to do. And it looks at the moment like it simply cannot do that. But my read on the situation, David, is that with this bone bruising, this chronic bone bruising he gets in his racket arm, my read on the situation is it can handle load up to a certain point. It can handle maybe even 90% of what's required to compete at the top of men's tennis. It can handle practice, but it can't handle 100%. It can't handle the match court. And it comes back, an hour, 90 minutes into tennis matches. And maybe that's something he can play through and improve. But the look on his face on Tuesday night suggested to me that he fears, or maybe even knows, that is not the case.
Yeah, I believe he didn't do a press conference following that match. And so I'm cautious about putting my own read on his sobbing, his really moving sobbing courtside. I don't want to necessarily tell you why that was, because I don't know. I haven't asked him, or I haven't been told by him why that is. We're guessing, but I mean, we do know that the guy's been out for most of the year, and he's kept trying to come back, and he's kept getting sensitivity to that arm, and I after that I sought out, and there's a really good piece by Jonathan Jarecko on the BBC Sport website about bone bruising, which is to try to explain what it is, which is an internal bleeding in the centre of the humerus bone. The vice president of the British Orthopaedic Association, Professor Amar Rangan, said that it's like a sort of tube-like bone between the shoulder and elbow joints, and one of them breaks, and there's sort of blood pressure within inside the bone, and tennis players are particularly liable to it because of the stresses you're putting on that part of the body with the acceleration and de-acceleration of shots, particularly the serve. And it says that generally it's sort of a dull, deep-seated pain, as well as limited mobility and inflammation. And, in terms of how you recover from it, well, the professor says it's almost a race between the bone healing and further stresses. So Jack's taken all these months off to rest it and rehab it, and you're hoping that it heals enough so that he can play the sport again. But, some people say, well, I mean, I think my wife said to me the other day, could he not have surgery? And apparently surgery is something that would damage it further. That wouldn't improve it. It would actually sort of damage it. And the only thing that can strengthen it is to rest and heal it that way. And of course, Jack doesn't want to just rest. He wants to be a player. And Arthur Ferry's had it, and Toby Samuel's had it in the UK, and they have recovered and they have become players. Don't know the extent of theirs, but he's in this constant process of trying to heal it. And I think I'm there, and I think it can cope, and it's coping in practice. It's played a couple of matches, and oh no, now it's stopped, and now it's hurting again. And now what do I do? That's my reading on it. Is like, how do you keep this up? I've seen a bit of footage of him practicing, I think, in preparation for another challenger that's coming up next week.
But I think
I don't
he
know.
can practice, right?
Yeah.
This is the, we heard about that practice set he won against Ben Shelton 6-1 in Washington. I think, he can get to a certain point and it feel good, but this is a game of fine margins, isn't it? And I don't, you can't be playing at practice level on the match court.
Yeah, it's devastating, really, to see it. And I mean, he's such a great guy, and he so wants it. He's doing all the right things. He's dedicating his whole life to trying to make himself able to play this sport at the level he knows he can, and he's not able to at the moment. And there's no obvious sign of him cracking it. And I really hope that's wrong. I hope that he is closer and he's just frustrated. But the way his serve powered down, the way he had to sort of change the way he was playing midway through that match, hopefully it's just a setback from the first big match back. Obviously, he didn't play Wimbledon. He had to pull out of Washington at the last minute. and he's played this match, and maybe you've got to test it and see how far away you are. Maybe it needs another sort of incremental build up of matches. I don't know, but I just know that I'm devastated for him that he's having this experience, and I really hope he can find a way through it.
Anything to add, Matt?
No, honestly, that was one of the toughest things I've seen on a tennis court in a while, seeing Draper like that. And I don't have anything to add on the injury, and just hope all the best for him, really. That was brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. Felix Auger-Aliassime withdrew from the tournament ahead of his first match, citing a back injury sustained in practice. He was the second seed at this tournament, Montreal, his home event. You know, with the state of the draw, I mean, frankly, without the draw being in that state, he was a favourite to win this title, and he couldn't even get to the starting line. Back injury sustained in practice, devastating for the event that were already in ruins by this point, quite frankly. This is an event that, obviously, last year they had the WTA and they had Victoria Mboko coming through in Montreal to win the title, and it couldn't be more different for them this year, could it? All the Canadians are out. Denis Shapovalov and Gabriel Diallo both retired in their opening matches. Tough scenes for Diallo, actually. I don't know if you saw that. It was on the same night as the devastating Jack Draper scenes, but Gabriel Diallo was in such a bad way, leg injury for him, and then all the other Canadians, the smattering of wild cards, they all lost, so there were none left by the end of round 2. Just a couple more injuries to cover before we get to the light at the end of the tunnel, folks. Taylor Fritz has a new injury, seemingly.
God. What's he got?
He lost to Augustin Taranti in his opening match, and the result itself didn't raise any red flags for me. I thought, well, that could be a blessing in disguise for Taylor Fritz to have an enforced couple of weeks off. But then it's emerged that he's struggling with his right foot, Matt.
Yeah, well, I don't know how bad this is, but he was having it looked at during this match against Tirante, and was getting a bit of treatment on it, and looked to be in some pain with it. But I've not actually seen any quotes about what the nature of that injury is, and I do think it was a tough turnaround coming off Washington with the Monday final and having to play, and we know that he's sort of managing serious knee condition as well. So yes, hopefully the foot's not too bad, and it can actually be a bit of a blessing in disguise with Cincinnati and the US Open to come. And he's already banked 500 points on the hard courts in Washington. So yeah, we'll just have to see on that one.
And a retirement last night from Francis Tiafoe against Artur Rinderknecht.
Yeah, I saw that one. He looked unwell. I don't know the exact nature of what was going on there, whether it was an injury or unwell. But I mean, right from the first couple of games, he just looked like he really didn't have any energy. He couldn't really get around the court. He was sort of the final game of it was quite funny on the tennis TV. 10-minute highlights for 6-2 love. Half the highlights were the final game, which he was coming up with some of the most ridiculous, almost trick shots, touch shots to stay in the game. The crowd were going crazy, and yet he got broken, and the crowd are going wild, and then he just walks to the net and he has to shake hands, and they didn't really understand, I don't think. Well, he's just been hitting some worldies, but I mean, they were just rabbits out of the hat, and he didn't look in a good way.
Yeah, I also thought he looked ill. Chris Eubanks did mention that there's a bit of a wrist issue there as well for him, so I don't know exactly what the retirement was related to, but yeah, a couple of things going on with Tiafoe. Disastrous
US swing so far, North American swing so far for Tiafoe. Quite a lot of pressure on Cincinnati for him, I'd imagine, to try and try and find something. That is it for the injury section of the show. I could do that's it for part one, couldn't I? And just have, a whole injury part one. But no, we're going to turn our attention to happier news coming from the unexpected source, David, of Artifice, who has won back-to-back tennis matches. Bring us good news.
He looked all right as well. I don't want to tempt fate, because obviously when we saw him against Rafael Jodar the other day, he played a great first set, didn't quite win it, and then started to feel something, went off the court, Anyway, he's back, and he looks okay to me. There were no sort of twinges or anything like that. He looked blooming rusty. I mean, really.
There was a racket smash.
Yeah, he was not very good in his first match. That was not a good performance, particularly. He is a player who's prone to a sudden lapse and losing 3 games very quickly. He lost the first 3 games of that match, and then he lost another 3-game period in the second set, which cost him the set. But he's able to get himself back on track and still win a lot of those. Second round match was very close against Navone until sort of 3-3, and then he just took over. He looked much more like he did in the spring in this match. And when he was doing well in Indian Wells and Miami, he looks a heck of a player. And he's exactly the sort of player, if he could just not get injured now, like if the injury doesn't crop up, he's the sort of guy.
The biggest if in men's tennis at the moment.
Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, what an extraordinary show to have had. I mean, it's no exaggeration, the sheer number of problems players are having. But Fils is the sort of guy that might be able to take advantage of this and, go all the way.
We will move on, but just lingering on this injury situation for a moment, that is an extraordinary opening to the show, really, isn't it? It is. I know we keep banging on about it, but the situation keeps somehow worsening. Should the ATP be at least acknowledging this in some way? Should we be hearing from Gaudenzi or someone from the ATP? Should somebody be saying, look, we can see, we're noticing this trend, the welfare of the players is always our number one priority, and we will be, I don't know, the sort of corporate statement that people's put out, will be looking into it, we'll be conducting a review, we'll be, we see that something is happening here.
I'd like to think that they're a bit worried about it, and that they are.
But what evidence have we got at the moment that they are, or that they see it as anything other than a bunch of individual unfortunate events?
I am mindful that what everybody says in public isn't necessarily how they feel and what they're doing in private. That having been said, there's so many of them at the moment. If there isn't an obvious link, then they probably need to get that out there, that this isn't out of the ordinary historically or something like that, unless it is out of the ordinary historically. I mean, we may be in an unfortunate period where all the headline names are getting the injuries and the lower rank and file aren't, for instance, whereas maybe in the past it's been the other way around. I don't know. But the sheer number of headliners being out of the game and comparing that to the women's game, for instance, it's not great, is it?
But don't you think the optics, even if they are doing stuff behind the scenes, the optics and the PR of this matter, right? Fans are looking at this going, my God, men's tennis, like what a disaster. I as a tennis fan would want to hear from the ATP that, that they don't want this to be how things are. They don't want this to be the status quo.
Based on the show we've just had for the last half an hour, I'm going to be asking them the question, are you worried? Are you doing anything about it? Is there anything to be seen in your stats?
Keep you posted, folks. Okay, that's the injury section of the show. On to the Dutch section of the show. Who knows how long this segment will be a thing for, but it's certainly a thing today. Let's start with Tallon Griekspoor, David. Finally got over the line against, albeit a subpar, Alexander Zverev, but one that needed putting away. David, and that is something historically that Tallon Griekspoor has spectacularly failed to do, even from winning positions. Well, this time he blimmin' well did it.
Yeah, I remember another one of his wins against Zverev was very similar to this last year. I think in Indian Wells, sort of 7-6 in the third, where he's had several chances. He's been by far the better player, and yet you're sitting there thinking he's not going to win this, is he? And he sort of should have won the first set. He was by far the better player, lost it on a tiebreak. I mean, Zverev really was subpar, and he said in his pre-tournament press conference, "I'm not really expecting much of myself here," and that it was kind of touch and go about whether he played the event. And then, I mean, the second set was it could have been a bagel. I mean, it was 6-2 in the end, but he won the first 4 games, Griekspoor. He's playing really well, by the way. Third set, he takes a 3-1 lead. He serves for it, immediately starts to lose his serve, and is going to the corner, and there are a lot of demons going on there with Tallon Griekspoor. He's had a tough year. He said afterwards, "I've had a really tough year," and so this is kind of the biggest win of my life, really, to have got this now. And he lost his serve, and when the scores were level there, I think at 4 games all, something like that, I thought, okay, it's probably over now, and Zverev will probably take over. But no, he broke again immediately, Griekspoor, and this time he served it out. All power to him for doing that.
Mm. And it turned into a twin set of big Dutch victories, because later that evening, Bertik van der Zandschulp took out Daniil Medvedev, who's got a very odd record at this event. Medvedev, I think.
You surprised me.
Well, he reached the final in 2019, lost to Nadal, I think it was then. And every other year going back to 2018, he's lost his opening match. Look, this was an odd match. Again, not surprising given the personnel involved. Nobody could hold serve. Daniil Medvedev was just slightly less able to hold serve than Bertik. 9 double faults, I think, for Medvedev versus only 3 aces. I mean, if you'd showed that version of Medvedev to the 2019 one, I was there for that run to the final in 2019, and it was just so exciting from Medvedev. Like, he was an exciting tennis player. He hit a good smattering of double faults back then because he took risks on the second serve, didn't he? He kind of gamed the system, and I remember him talking about how he'd worked out that, what his second serve percentage was, and it was worth taking the risk of the double fault to go big on the second serve, and he could really do damage to opponents back then. And look, this was the Bertik that sometimes randomly gets out of bed in the morning that looks world-beating. He's so smooth, Bertik, at his best, isn't it? It's like he just hits this flow state, and he's like, he's as surprised as anyone. His face is saying, "I'm 5-2 down," but his tennis is saying, "I'm 5-2 up." So yeah, look, Bertik was great, but Medvedev, doesn't look like the one that's going to be taking advantage of any opportunities there might be in men's tennis at the moment, which, he's one of the rare top players he's won a hard court Grand Slam and he's not injured, and yet he can't take advantage. I imagine he's pretty damn frustrated, Daniil Medvedev. I think he described it as a horrible match or something afterwards. He's not happy. But a great duo of wins for Dutch players. So we'd lost Zverev, we'd lost Felix Auger-Aliassime to injury. Obviously, Sinner Alcaraz didn't get to the start line. Lost Medvedev. Fritz is gone. You're thinking, wow, what an opportunity for Alex de Minaur. Matt, top seed remaining. He's serving for the match against Cam Norrie last night. Ends up losing it 6-1 in the third.
Yeah, such a tough loss for de Minaur because he should have won this. Totally. I mean, an odd first set. He came out firing de Minaur, broke Norrie in the opening game, and then suddenly was 4-1 down. despite not playing all that badly. I thought Norrie was really impressive in that opening stretch. But then Norrie twice gets broken from 40-love up in that first set, and de Minaur comes up with some incredible shot making down the stretch in the first set, wins the opener, and then takes this 5-2 lead in the second set. And frankly, I am at that stage getting ready for bed. I'm like, this is over. I'm going to go and brush my teeth. I'm going to keep the telly on, but I am ready as soon as this finishes to turn the telly off, get to sleep.
What's your new flat layout? We've not been invited round, David, so we don't know. Can you see your big telly from your bathroom?
I can see my big telly from most places, yeah. Not from the bathroom, but the noise feeds through.
Yeah.
It's a good setup. But he double faults on match point, de Minaur. And that's immediately a warning sign, isn't it? Of sort of he's tense. And against Norrie, Norrie's not going to go away, and he keeps the pressure on, and he serves for it again, de Minaur at 5-4. Norrie plays quite a nice game, but de Minaur gets broken. But then de Minaur does manage to take it to a tiebreak. He holds to take it to a tiebreak, and I'm thinking, okay, he's got over the little choke that he's just had. He's now in a tiebreak, takes a lead in the tiebreak, and then he loses that lead, and suddenly loses the set, and all of his momentum's gone. And he loses the third very, very quickly, again, with a lot of badly timed double faults on break points. He double faulted to go down a break. He double faulted to go down a double break. And it was just the picture of a man who is just severely lacking confidence, I think, at the moment, and the ability to tough through matches, which has always been one of his great attributes. There's a lot of self-doubt, I think, in there, right? And the opportunities are there for him, and he can't grasp them. And I think it's all snowballing and making it worse in his mind. Really, really tough loss for de Minaur. Because I agree with you. I think this tournament was well set up for him, actually, to really have a run.
Rafael Jodar, that the wall that we're all expecting him to hit isn't here yet. He was really impressive last night. Straight sets over Lorenzo Musetti, Matt.
Yeah, second week in a row that he's beaten Musetti. He needed 3 sets in Washington. He's done it in straight sets here. And look, very tight first set. Musetti has break point at 4-3, and then loses 11 points in a row. And Tennis TV clipped up that little section of the match and described it as a generational lock-in from Jodar, which I think might have been bait, because you then watch the points and it's basically just the unforced error fest from Lorenzo Musetti. Like, Jodar doesn't do
It's just Musetti on a hard court.
Jodar doesn't do a huge amount of locking in, I wouldn't have said.
Generational.
But he knuckled down. He didn't make errors. He came with a lot of good energy in those moments. Whereas Musetti's
no one's clicking on a knuckling down, Matt.
No, I guess not. I mean, I
Imagine what Novak
because...
Djokovic is thinking.
Generational knuckling down from Rafael Jodar. Click.
Yeah, I was like, okay. But I suppose it was indicative of a guy like Jodar, who at the moment is like the anti-de Minaur, isn't he? He's full of confidence. He's winning a lot of matches, even when he's not necessarily playing his best. He's coming through tough moments, and that all builds confidence. Whereas Musetti doesn't have any of that at the moment and is searching again. And I just have this sense that Musetti, every time something goes a little bit wrong on court, he's almost thinking, oh, well, I had it all going on in Australia and then I got injured. It almost feels like he's still not over that mentally. He's bringing that still to the match court, and which is understandable. He was playing brilliantly when his career got disrupted like that. But it's just a process of trying to get it back. And you see it in those moments where he has an opportunity and can't take it. He suddenly gets very, very frustrated and down on himself. And he sort of let that first set run away from him. And then that energy continued in the second set, and Hodar built a 4-1 lead, and then it became a bit of a match again, and Musetti was suddenly back, and the shot making was back, and he recovered one of the breaks, and maybe he could have pushed it. But Hodar was good. Hodar was really good in this one. He was more explosive than I'd seen him recently, taking charge, hitting his backhand down the line very well to expose Musetti, who wants to, stand in his backhand corner. He leaves quite a lot of space up the line, and Hodar took advantage of that. And he was dangerous on return, looking to harm on all the returns that he's hitting. That's the Hodar that I think we first saw and want to see. And he did have a bit of that going on last night against Musetti. So it's another big opportunity for him in this tournament as well. Like he's the one right now with the confidence. It's just, I do still think he's hanging on a little bit physically based on all the matches he's played. So that's going to be interesting to watch.
Is Hodar the favourite for the title from here?
It's a very good question.
David? Or either of you, somebody say something?
It's Hodar's problem is he's actually landed in the section that is still a little bit tough. Like he's got the Hechka, and then he's got the winner of Feast Norrie. Like there's actually a lot of good players still left in that little section. Whereas,
Who's your pick? Who's your pick from here?
I don't have a pick.
Do you think it could be somebody really random?
Isn't Jakub Menchik or Ben Shelton maybe the favourite at this point? I would probably put one of those guys.
Yeah, Tommy Paul, Lerner Tien, they're
playing each other, Paul and
yes.
Tien.
Fonseca.
But
Fonseca plays Rude, I think.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, Fonseca looked good against Tsitsipas.
Yeah, I'd probably go with one of those guys. I mean, Shelton won it last year, didn't he? I'd probably go Menchik actually. The way he's playing at the moment.
Matt, your pick. Who is there anyone in the draw? Is there anyone in the draw that is everybody in the mix? Who's
Lots
not
of
in the
people
mix?
are, certainly. Okay, Zizou Bergs.
Yeah, Borges
in the mix.
He's had a nice run. He's won 3 matches, but I'd be surprised if he won the title.
Is Rinderknecht in the mix? Nakashima,
he's always
Rinderknecht, Darderi.
Marida's not in the mix.
Is Darderi in the mix, David?
No.
Cam Norrie?
But there are several that are. Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
Norrie's in the mix. So Bergs isn't. Terence Atman.
I'd be surprised if he won it. Yeah. So probably
Hubert
not in the
Hurkacz.
mix.
Bertic?
He's
My guy Bertic?
You tell me.
Yeah. It would be spectacularly
Quite
random,
surprising.
wouldn't it? Yeah, but he's the guy that does the surprising things, so I don't know.
But he always
what
gets
even
to a
is
point where he loses.
Yeah, no, he will lose. Bertic will lose. Thiago Agustin Tarante, not in the mix. Popperin, former champion, in the mix. Alex Mickelson. These are questions, folks. Please answer.
Yeah, but
Mickelson in the mix.
what do you think?
I think
There we
Alex
go.
Mickelson is not in the mix. I would still be
To actually win
surprised.
it is just total guesswork.
Okay, but don't be surprised and annoyed that I'm asking you to do that guesswork on the tennis podcast.
You look surprised and annoyed when we asked you.
Yeah.
No, I've said no to Bertic. Bertic is not in the mix.
I could do that.
Not in my lifetime. Okay, so from here, David, you're picking Shelton? No, you're picking Menchik.
No, Menchik, yeah.
And Matt, you're picking... I'm gonna press you.
Fonseca.
You're picking Fonseca. Fun. These are fun predictions. Okay, folks, that's it for part 1. We'll be back in part 2 to talk about Toronto. AI was supposed to take over the parts of the job that you hate. Turns out it made your job even harder. Instead of doing the work, it gave you homework. ServiceNow's AI specialists get work done. From start to finish, cases get resolved, loops get closed, no extra work for you. With ServiceNow, you can do the parts of the job you're best at and delegate the rest. To put AI to work for people, visit servicenow.com. Welcome back to part 2 of today's tennis podcast, where we head to Toronto now and the WTA event, the 1000 event happening there this week, and a first match, a first tournament, a first defeat since lifting the Wimbledon trophy for Linda Noskova 2. Caty McNally, 7-6, 6-1. McNally sort of incrementally increasing her relevance on the WTA Tour in quite an exciting way. And she set up now a third round match with Alexandra Eala, who we'll talk about in just a moment. That's a night session match tonight. McNally, Eala. Already can't wait for that. Tell us about McNally's victory over Noskova, Matt.
Yeah, look, she's absolutely got game, McNally, and I really like her game, and it's good to see her becoming more relevant on the tour. And like you, I'm looking forward to this match against Eala. Noskova fell to pieces. I mean, she was 5-1 up in the opening set, Noskova, and it was then, it was a bit like how she just couldn't suddenly play against Mukova in the Wimbledon final, but very understandably because she was trying to win Wimbledon. And then she recovered and got it back on track. Well, this was like she then never recovered from the drop-off. Her numbers at the end of this: 11 double faults, 42 unforced errors, only 48% first serves in, lost 12 of the last 14 games. And just once she lost it, she couldn't get it back. And we know she's got quite a high risk game, in terms of she goes for lines and she tries to hit the ball flat, and sometimes it can look a bit like this. And I think it's an important reminder that yes, she's shown she's so capable of putting it all together and winning Wimbledon, but it's not always going to look like that. And first match back after you've become a major champion, I think you said it after the Wimbledon final, Catherine, you almost give her a pass now until the start of next season. So much just suddenly changes for you. It's hard, very hard. But I do think McNally Eala could be a lot of fun tonight. Just matchup wise, game style wise, that one I'm really into. So yeah, it was nice for McNally to get that win.
Again, like with Jodar, no signs yet of that wall being hit. I mean, she's just riding a wave, Eala, isn't she? I mean, absolute scenes for her first match, 6-2 in the third over Alicia Parks, David.
Yeah, you get some great atmospheres in Toronto generally, especially for these night sessions. But when Eala came out, I mean, it was absolutely extraordinary. I mean, it might have been a level up on many of the other tournaments that we've had recently from her in terms of atmosphere. It's like some homecoming. It's just like the sort of thing you see after somebody comes back to their home country after winning a Grand Slam. And it was so electric and wonderful. I mean, Alicia Parks looked really taken aback at times and a bit irritated as well upon hearing certain things, I think, after certain serves and stuff like that, which I do get. I mean, but you've got to get used to it. You've got to accept it. But there's a look in the eye about Eala. She's still in the zone right now. She's still looking like she's playing tennis pretty much to the limit. She still looks fresh. She still has that look of real intense focus, as though she is right where you want to be with this atmosphere, taking energy from it, kind of almost orchestrating it. I mean, at the end of her match against Parks, she was sort of asking for even more noise. I'm thinking, oh, crikey, I'm not sure they can do much more. But there was she's not cowed by it at all. At some point, I still think, crikey, it's quite early in the US season to be playing this well and to win this many matches. You you can't just keep this up, can you? And just go and just keep winning all the way through the US Open. I don't think that's doable. So at some point, she needs a rest, you would have thought. But look, that's throwing it forward too far. I don't want to look at Alexandra Eala through the lens of the US Open all the time. I know that I do that a lot, but I don't want to do that with her because she's so new on the circuit. Let's just enjoy this. This is unique. This is it's almost generational into, we used that word earlier to talk about a lockdown from Rafael Jodar. Well, this is generational atmosphere and an event for tennis, not just women's tennis, for tennis. This woman is getting 10 times the eyeballs on her kind of online clips than anybody else, it seems, at the moment. So lock in and enjoy, I would say.
The tournament director said they simply had to put her on the main court. Like they had no other choice because of the demand that was there for her match.
And presumably it becomes a kind of security concern, like a crowd control issue, to not put her on the main court. Yeah. She's headlining the night session tonight against Caty McNally. I might set my alarm, wake up in the middle of the night, UK time, to watch that one. Amanda Anisimova, Matt, she's beaten Bartunkova. She's facing Svitolina now. How's the forehand looking now that Rick Vlieshauers is back in the fold?
Honestly, like, a little tough to say because I did only see those 15-minute Tennis Channel condensed match highlights, and they're not going to show, all the forehands that she was missing at Wimbledon, for example, in that sort of package. I think there was still, like, she had some break points at the start of the third set and had second serve returns and missed forehands on both of them. And there was a couple of opportunities where Bartunkova rushed her on that shot, you could see. But it was also a lot of good that wasn't there at Wimbledon. So I think it's coming back, hopefully. To me, the thing that stood out was how fast she looked. Like, Bartunkova was drop-shotting her and playing short balls, and Anisimova was up to them. And I think she looks a lot more grounded and comfortable moving on a hard court than she does on the clay and the grass, to be honest. And I know she obviously reached the Wimbledon final last year, but that was mostly due to the ball striking. I think the movement looks better on a hard court. She looks more agile, I would say. Backhand, dialed, just cannons coming off that wing, of course. And she had to fight here. She was a set down. She won the second set very easily, but then was twice a breakdown in the third set, but broke back immediately both times and just dug in, fought well, didn't let her frustration boil over like we have seen a lot this year. Problem now is she runs into Svitolina, and Svitolina was awesome last night against Potapova and has a very good record against Anisimova. Beat her in Canada last year very comfortably, but I do think that was a match that Anisimova didn't really need, after the Wimbledon final, after all the wins she's had. Canada didn't mean that much to her. Canada, I think, and this tournament means a lot to Anisimova now. She needs to find something going into the US Open. So could be a pretty special match actually against Svitolina. I liked what I saw from Anisimova, with the caveat that I didn't see the full match.
I do think this stage of the season, Svitolina is vulnerable, regardless of how well she's played in the previous match, and that obviously the head-to-head is a problem for Anisimova. But I just always, I don't know, I just feel like the well isn't as deep. I mean, it isn't for everybody, but I feel like that in the past couple of seasons has been more extreme for Svitolina, and there was certainly evidence of that in Washington. It was Eala she lost to in Washington, wasn't it?
She almost lost her first match here to Rufus Monero. She was very close to going out, but as I said, was very good against Potapova.
Aryna Sabalenka, David, has done what she needed to do for now to keep her world number one ranking. She's into the fourth round where she'll face Ekaterina Alexandrova.
Yeah, that's it's good to see her back winning again and looking happy. She played the night session in this one, and she made it very clear how much she enjoyed it. Absolutely packed house. This is one of those where, because they're dividing the tournaments up between Montreal and Toronto, she hasn't got to do the whole, oh, I know you're here for so and so, buddy else. No, it's very clear they're all here for you, Aryna, and or at least there's big crowds that they're supporting it. And I did think, I hope Emily Maresmo's watching this, because Aryna Sabalenka enjoyed that, and she's made it very clear that she likes the night session atmosphere. So. Good on her. And she needs to get a bit of a run going, doesn't she? Sabalenka needs to get some momentum.
Yeah, I'd have thought so. Iga Swiatek has dropped only 5 games through 2 rounds. She beat Sara Balic, and she's beaten Victoria Golubich. That Balic match could have turned, definitely. There was a game in the second set, Swiatek serving game, where there were about 12, 13 deuces, maybe. And it felt like, wow, if Balic gets this back, maybe the whole match is different. But in the end, Swiatek wins it and puts her foot to the floor. And, through 2 rounds, it feels like we're talking about the Swiatek of old, the Iga's Bakery Swiatek. But she now faces Marta Kostyuk, who absolutely took Madison Keys to the cleaners last night. Kostyuk, I mean, she sort of big picture, it seems to be absolutely riding a wave, Kostyuk. I mean, I would have totally understood if the Wimbledon, the early summer Marta Kostyuk didn't necessarily carry through until the US Open. If there was a bit of a drop off, if she looked like she was running on fumes a little bit, well, so far, not in the least.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't see much of this match against Madison Keys because I was so wrapped up in the Alex de Minaur of it all as he was trying to serve it out, and I just was checking the score on this one, and it was looking pretty straightforward. So I didn't feel like I had to get eyes on it, but I was expecting it to be much closer than that.
Who do you see, both of you, as the favourite in Kostyuk-Swiatek? Not who do you think is going to win, objectively, as objective as you can be. Who's the favourite there?
I still think Swiatek is the favourite. I think you'd have to look at their pedigree and their records generally and have to go with her. But, I mean, it just wouldn't surprise me at all if Kostyuk came and played lights out and made things very difficult. Equally, I think you can get very one-sided matches for Swiatek. If she's playing well and the other player's just a bit off, she can win straightforwardly too.
This is the first time Swiatek's had a chunk of time with Francisco Roig, isn't it? To actually train, really. It's been all about tournaments and matches. I think it's going to be interesting in a match like this, against Kostyuk, who's beaten her this year, to see whether she can actually implement what she's been working on when she's under pressure. I felt like she played with a lot of nice patience in those first 2 matches. Golubich is someone with a lot of variety, and Swiatek didn't let that bother her at all. She was very good. It's just that Kostyuk can apply more pressure and has got more firepower, and that's what I think is the real test of everything Swiatek's been working on, really, for quite a long time now. But I don't know. She seems in good spirits, I've thought, in some of her interviews that I've seen. I really want to see Swiatek come out firing and, see whether Kostyuk can live with her. It's a great match.
Tasty match. Yeah, really tasty. Maya Joint's won a couple of matches. I mean, back-to-back match wins for Maya Joint in 2026 is a really big deal. Great win over Sorana Castella, who might be on fumes a bit now, Castella. We've had Mira Andreeva looking good so far. She faces home favourite Leylah Fernandez tonight. Emma Navarro lost, Matt, to the talented young Russian Elena Korneeva. So it's Korneeva-Jovic now. You watched the Navarro-Korneeva match and had a fun time?
Not really. It wasn't a particularly a fun time, I wouldn't have said. It was a bit of a
Well,
demolition,
it's made it onto the
really.
agenda.
Well, that comment is about Jovic Korneeva,
Okay.
which I think is interesting. Two players born in 2007, and yet I think we know a lot more about Jovic. But Korneeva was the junior in 2003. She beat Andreeva in the Australian Open final, which lasted over 3
2023.
hours. Sorry, 2023. Yeah, definitely
Literally
not
wasn't born in
2003. She also won the French Open girls that year. She won the first two. She finished the year number one. She's just had horrible injuries since then. She had a wrist injury. She had an adductor problem. She's missed about 15 months of competition. And obviously, she'll have seen what Andreeva's gone on to do in that time, and now what Jovic is doing. But Korneeva this season has jumped a lot. She's won a lot of matches at tour level, at World Tennis Tour level. She reached the semi-finals in Athens a couple of weeks ago. She got a win over Valentova there, and she's absolutely destroyed Navarro here, 2-2. And I think she feels like a lot of matches are on her racket, Korneeva. I think obviously Jovic is very, very good, and I would expect Jovic to win. But I'm just interested to see where Korneeva's at, I suppose, coming up against someone who is in, her age, but has sort of achieved a lot more on the tour. She's coached by Anabel Medina Garrigues, is Korneeva. And there's a good interview with her on the WTA website where she's talked about how she realized that she needs to watch tennis and study her opponents, and she started doing that a lot more, and she thinks that's really helpful for her to create tactical plans to face certain opponents. So, really interested just how that one goes. I think that might be first up today, actually, in Canada.
Medina Garrigues was coach to Yelena Ostapenko, as I recall, when Ostapenko won the French Open. Yeah, Grand Slam winning coach. She's got herself there.
Yeah.
Potentially an incredibly underrated coach.
Absolutely.
Medina Garrigues. Why aren't we talking about her? Generational coach, Annabelle Medina Garrigues. Okay, that's it for part 2 and your Toronto roundup of what's happened so far. We'll be back in part 3 with just a couple of bits and bobs of news. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast. A couple of bits of WTA news. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the WTA players have been asked in their pre-tournament and post-match press conferences about the story that we reported on a week or so ago about the WTA's new DNA-based sex testing policy. The quotes are floating around out there. None are particularly surprising. A lot of reluctance from players to get lost in the weeds on this. A deep awareness, I'd have thought, of what a easily inflamed topic it is, or already inflamed topic it is. But unsurprisingly, Coco Gauff has expressed the most informed, sensitive and nuanced view of the lot. I mean, it's amazing how she does this, really. She's managed to express, very, very clear and heartfelt support for the trans community, while also stating the general need to protect the integrity of women's sport, and an awareness of what a lightning rod of a topic this is. I mean, she just, it's so easy to say, I don't want to talk about this. I'm just a tennis player. These aren't my decisions. And she so rarely resorts to that. She's so impressive, Coco
Thank
Gauff.
goodness for her, Catherine, because, quite often when these topics come up, obviously people want to ask the players their view. It affects the players. It affects the sport. They are the people that are the most high-profile people to talk about it. It's just that quite often you feel as though they're unequipped or unprepared to properly engage with it. And she is on both stands. And she just I read her quotes and I nod my head. and that is pretty much without fail. And I'm just so grateful that she is there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say that we want to hear from the players, which to a certain extent I do, but I want to hear from the WTA leadership on this.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think, like, when something like this comes out, it really should be the WTA leadership, the ones who've made the decision, who are front and center for press conferences and questions? Like, yes, it affects these players, but they're not the ones who have made the decision, and yet they're the ones who have to answer all the questions. Like, I just think it's staggering that something like this can, like a big thing can be made, and the WTA can just put out a statement.
Yeah, stick it out in a press release and don't do press conferences and let the players do those.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's legit for the players to be, even though I, kind of Coco Gauff aside, because I trust her to be informed. I'm not that interested in what the players have to say about it generally, unless it is clear that they are informed on the topic, because this is such a nuanced topic that requires such delicacy, that if somebody isn't sort of properly informed and reasoned on it, it's just not an opinion I'm hugely interested in. And yet their opinion is relevant, because the WTA in their statement said a big motivation for this has been that WTA players, certainly some of them, they say, have been asking for it. So it's completely legit to ask. But yeah, I completely agree. Just, I mean, unfortunately, it's the playbook we see in politics quite a lot now, isn't it? It's the Farage playbook: make a statement, don't invite the media, don't have to take any questions on it. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Matt. David, we've had the news that WTA Ventures, which is kind of the commercial marketing arm of the WTA, and ATP, there's an ATP equivalent. There was a lot of talk. In fact, I think the default plan was for those two entities to merge for a long time and to form Tennis Ventures, and for that to be like the first step towards an intended merger of the two tours, for the sort of the marketing departments to merge first, and then let's take it from there. I believe Tennis Ventures is now pretty much off the cards, and so we have WTA Ventures and ATP Ventures, and WTA Ventures, we are hearing, have appointed IMG, the huge management company, as its production partner for broadcast, replacing DAZN. David, you've done a bit of a deep dive on this. You've had a bit of a briefing about it. What does it mean to the tennis fan? What's the relevance of this? What's the importance of this move?
Well, I think whilst I would love to have seen the two tours come together, of course, and be combined and really put their full weight behind just selling the product and communicating the product of tennis. In the absence of that, I am encouraged by this, because I think there has been a shortfall and a big disparity between the way the WTA Tour and the ATP Tour have been presented over the years. Tennis TV, I think, do a magnificent job of promoting men's tennis. The WTA removed themselves from that platform many years ago because they weren't getting a fair deal in their view, and they went out on their own. And I don't think, whilst the DAZN deal, which was a 10-year deal, did promise to produce footage of every single match on the WTA circuit, and it's been good to that. They have done that. I don't think they've packaged and presented that to the tennis fan over the years in a way that it has been really satisfactorily able to digest and to consume the product. This should help with that. This should help with the broadcast quality. I think it will make it a lot more aligned, and able to sort of tell a story for tennis. That's the hope. and be a lot more integrated. That I think the social side of things should improve, because the content will be there and everybody will have access to it within the operation. The sort of conversations I've been having the last couple of days make me feel that everything should be a lot more integrated, that they produce matches, that it goes into a system, there are people working on it. There's a lot of AI going on in terms of producing match highlight footage, and some of that is over the last couple of years I've found very substandard. What I would say is, having had a good look at the WTA's YouTube site this morning and compared it to Tennis TV and ATP, they are now doing more match highlights than anybody else, the WTA Tour, and they have lengthened them to sort of 6 minutes, which is a much better length, at least in terms of being able to, right, I want to know what happened overnight, I can go and watch some highlights. If I went back 6 or 8 months ago, it wasn't like that. I still think there are some real gaps. I watched the Anisimova highlights today, and the first 7 points, Anisimova won, and she was 2-4 down. And I just don't understand, how that can happen. But that's one of the downsides, I think, of AI. Really, is but you simply cannot have editors doing every single match. You would just need such an enormous team of people. But I think that the IMG deal they are vastly experienced. They do this for a lot of others. Wimbledon, for instance, produce their own broadcast, which then goes to everybody else, and that's increasingly the way things happen. I think this should help with getting the product out there, making it easier to consume.
Yeah, look, I worked with IMG as production partners with Amazon for 5 years. Amazon didn't have their own house productions. They appointed IMG to kind of run all that under the guidance of executives from Amazon. And look, they know what they're doing. They're an incredibly experienced, well-oiled outfit with a lot of resources and a lot of expertise. I would say that everything depends on budget. Like there's not many corners to be cut here. You get what you pay for in TV production, and that's kind of a vicious circle, isn't it? Because you increase revenues and increase budgets by growing the sport, and you grow the sport by putting money into the production and getting eyeballs on the game and all of that. So it's kind of a self-feeding ecosystem, or that's the plan.
And we see that, don't we? If you compare the ATP production versus the WTA over the years, it has been night and day, really, in terms of the feel.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, really good people, really good producers can eke more out of a budget than average producers, for sure, but generally in TV you get what you pay for, is my experience. Okay, I think that's it for today's show. We'll be back on Monday though, to talk about, well, more things that have happened in Canada over the weekend. Probably a lot of it in the middle of the night. Not sure how much sleep we'll have had over the weekend, but I'm excited to lose sleep in order to watch Alexandra Eala. We have our mascots. We have Bodie, Maisie and Roger. We had some Roger visual updates this week, Matt, which I enjoyed very much. We have swimming Roger.
Swimming. Yeah,
I didn't
head
know.
Poking out.
I didn't
Or
know
big
Bernese
head.
Mountain Dogs were swimmers, Matt. This was a real revelation for me. He must take so long to dry off. So long. Yeah, I loved it so much. He managed to look small, his tiny little head poking out from the big expanse of water. Thank you, Carrie, for sending that. Bodie and Maisie, visual updates, content is very much welcomed. Please do send me some Bodie and Maisie content. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff. We salute you, and we'll take some shout outs, Matt.
We have a couple today. We have Ruth Murray from Hertfordshire.
Hello, Ruth Murray, from Hertfordshire, which is where my brother and family live. lovely part of the world. Ruth, like my childhood best friend.
Murray? Like the Murrays.
Tennis Ruths. That's tough, isn't it? Pam's definitely going to text us, but off the top of my head, I've got nothing. What do we know about Ruth?
Ruth and her husband Robin went to Wimbledon for the first time this year. And Ruth was wearing her tennis podcast t-shirt.
Go on, Ruth. Love that. First time Wimbledon is a vibe, is a real vibe. That's a like, wow, I'm here kind of moment. So hope you both had that. Thank you, Ruth.
And finally, we have Susan Ford from Chicago.
Hello,
Hi,
Susan. Like Susan Lajovic.
Indeed.
And Chicago. Like Chicago.
Chicago.
Matt in Chicago.
And Susan says, I play tennis with a lovely group of friends, and we're constantly referencing or retelling good lines or insights we hear on the pod. Keep up the wonderful energy. Which is a lovely message.
Bless.
Lovely message. Thank you, Susan. And thank you for giving us an opportunity to relive the summer hits of Chicago and Susan Lajovic. Truly two of my favourite bits from summer 2026. Susan and Ruth, thank you ever so much for being friends of the Tennis Podcast. If you'd like to become a friend of the pod, the link is in the show notes. And if you do become a friend, you get access to our whole archive, including the show that we did on Wednesday night with Pam, your friend of mine, Pamela Howard-Shriver, debating and discussing what to do about doubles, obviously in light of the announcement or other news that leaked from the ATP during Wimbledon that they're planning to drastically change the face of doubles on the ATP Tour, much to the consternation of much of the doubles tennis world. Certainly a lot of the top men's doubles players have spoken out about it. It sparked a lot of debate. We decided to deep dive on that debate with 22-time major doubles champion Pam Shriver on Wednesday night. And that show is up now for friends of the pod. Link to become a friend in the show notes. We'll be back on Monday with our next show. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Thank you for listening. We'll speak to you then.